Good morning, how are you doing? The Rugby Offload blog on Twitter asked me for my thoughts on Georgia joining the Six Nations. So I thought it'd be a good idea for me to jump on camera and give a brain dump of my thoughts. So here are Rugby thoughts on Georgia joining the Six Nations. This is an exciting time in rugby. We've got Georgia coming up. We've got professional league in the US and the US coming up, even though there are some issues around administration over there. We've got the possibility of a Super Rugby team in Fiji and the possibility of the Pacific Islands being able to keep some of their own players, and Fiji already being involved in the Rugby Championship, the NRC, which is the second level competition in Australia. So there's a lot of interesting and exciting stuff going on. Obviously, also Japan and Argentina have Super Rugby sides just recently, so it's all a good time to be in rugby. So the big question is, how do we start integrating some of these nations into the Tier 1 competitions? So down south, you've got just 4 teams in there, so it's a smaller competition. You can see how they can probably integrate Japan and possibly other sides quite comfortably and not have it exploding out into too many fixtures. Up in Europe, it's a different ball game entirely. How many teams do we include? How many extra teams get to have a go? And suddenly it becomes a very bloated and large competition. So yes, I do think Georgia deserve a shot at the Six Nations. I do think they deserve a place at the table. We do need to be growing this. But the question is, how do we go about doing that? I think that the only way is to split into a some sort of conference system for the Six Nations rather than a promotion relegation piece. As Georgia have rightly said, the incumbents aren't going to vote for promotion relegation, especially those teams that have finished at the bottom recently. So your Italy's, Scotland's, even France, who I think was down there recently, would not be voting for relegation and losing an awful lot of cash. The Six Nations basically pays for European rugby in a lot of these countries, with the exception of France, where obviously the domestic league makes a stack load of cash itself. So it can't be done via that. So I think some sort of conference system where you have perhaps split into sort of 2 lots of 4. So you have England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales in one conference, and then you have France, Italy, Georgia, maybe either Romania or Russia in a kind of Eastern conference, have sort of West and East conference, and then have the teams that the top 2 playing off for the final, the sort of second 2 playing off for the third, fourth playoff, etc. down. So that would give you, because currently they have 5 games, depending on how you structure it, that would give you 3 sort of pool games or conference games, and then either a final game, or you could go for a semi-final, final sort of situation. You'd have to figure out some way of balancing home and away fixtures so that fans get to see their teams rather than it being seeded on those. But I think that's, if we're going to include Georgia, that is the way forward, is a conference style East-West. Maybe over time with future teams, countries growing, you can see how then you can either expand it or you can split it into 2 or even 3 kind of separate competitions further down the line. So yes, I think Georgia needs to have a shot, and that's how I think we can include them. I think promotion relegation isn't feasible. And I think trying to expand it to be a 7, 8, 9, 10 nations isn't a long-term feasible way either for player welfare and just for taking the players away from their clubs for too long. So let me know your thoughts below. That's how I see it all hopefully panning out. But hey, common sense doesn't always come to the fore. Maybe you think I've got it totally wrong. So let me know. And enjoy having a look at some of my other Rugby Thought videos as well. Thanks, guys.